your attention to Mark chapter 7, verses 24 through 30. Again, I really want to celebrate the mothers today. That's what I feel the Lord laid on my heart today with this passage. And so happy Mother's Day to all the mothers in the house. And I want to encourage us to celebrate her and appreciate her. We surely will appreciate the dads and the fathers, and we'll do that next month, and they're always worthy appreciation. But today, it's a good thing to set aside that for mom. Is that all right? So we're going to do that. And so Mark chapter 7, we've been in a series, The DNA of Hurt. We're going to set that aside today, and today just for the moms, because we want mom to feel good today. Amen. Mark 7, verse 24 through 30, and here's how this passage reads. From there he arose and went away to the region of Tyre and Sidon. And he entered a house and did not want anyone to know, yet he could not be hidden. But immediately a woman whose little daughter had an unclean spirit heard of him and came and fell down at his feet. Now the woman was a Gentile or a Greek, a Syrophoenician by birth, meaning that she was mixed breed or half breed. And she begged him to cast the demon out of her daughter. And he said to her, "Let the children be fed first, for it is not right to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs." And dog here has the idea of a house pet. And so for those you don't like dogs as house pets, Jesus liked dogs for house pets. Amen. But she answered him, "Yes, Lord, and yet even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs." And he said to her, "For this statement you may go your way. The demon has left your daughter." And she went home and found the child lying in bed and the demon gone. I want to talk about something about a mother's love, Recently, my wife attended a conference that featured this woman on the screen. Her name is Shannon Davis. Shannon Davis is president of Bridgeway Foundation, an organization dedicated to exposing and delivering people from the oppression in countries such as Syria, Uganda, and Rwanda. She's dedicated to peace and reconciliation, has done quite a bit of work in those areas and bringing victims out of those horrific tragedies. Has anyone heard of Joseph Kony? Joseph Kony. If you haven't, Joseph Kony is a man who operates in Uganda, and he's a leader of a group called the Lord's Resistance Army. But it is a group that has probably committed some of the most horrendous or horrific crimes and atrocities against humanity. He's responsible for the murder of 25,000 people plus displacement of like 2 million people. They pillage villages and remove people, and an untold number, thousands upon thousands, of sex slave crimes. He's infamously known for his mass abduction of children, in which he transforms them into ruthless child soldiers. So a lot of these kids, he kidnaps them from the villages, and then he forces them and indoctrinates them with his ideas to be child soldiers for his hellish cause. And so Shannon Davis has been a major voice and an advocate in this area and has really been a part of numerous efforts to bring victims out of that. You're asking the question, what does this have to do with Mother's Day? Well, there's something that they did, one of the methods that they used to bring some of these individuals out that I think is worth noting. Her and her team went to these villages where these children had been abducted and had conversations with the mothers. And what they did, they recorded the voices of the mother pleading for their children to return home. They made a number of recordings. And then they flew in helicopters over the jungle areas where many of these soldiers resided. And they would play those recordings on loudspeakers, playing the pleas and the cries of these mothers pleading with their children to return home. Now, here's what you got to understand. Many of these children that were abducted, they hadn't seen their mothers since they were kids. Many of them are adults. They're adult men in their 20s, some even in their 30s, and they hadn't heard their mother's voice. They hadn't even seen their mother since they were abducted. And yet, when they played these voices over the loudspeakers, they said many of these kids dropped their weapons and returned to their homes. More than 700 kids have returned to their homes once they heard their mother's voice. Isn't that amazing? That's an amazing story. And as I thought about that, I said, God really put something special, something almost supernatural in a mother. That love in her voice, no matter how horrific the tragedy, no matter how bad the suffering, something about a mother's voice, the love in her voice that can make everything right. It's something special about that, as we see in that story. And many of us, that's why we celebrate Mother's Day, because we know she has that effect on us. We know she has that presence on us. Some of us know we have that mother that she doesn't even have to say a word, but she knows exactly what needs to be said. She knows when we're hurting. She knows when we feel a little bit marginalized or isolated. And she knows how to just bring us back and make us feel at home. Some of us got that kind of mother. She just knows how to hug right. Some folk don't know how to hug, amen. But mama gets it right every time. Am I right about it? I mean, she just knows what you need. She knows how to cook the right meal, She knows the right word to say. Because it's almost like she knows what's going on in our soul. It's almost like God put something in her that is almost supernatural, that love. It cannot be explained in this world. Philosophers and modern scientists and evolutionists have tried to put their tab on the origin of the world. But what they can't explain is why a mother loves the way she loves. I mean, philosophers cannot explain why a mother perseveres through difficulty with her love for her children. Evolutionists cannot explain why a mother loves in a survival of the fittest kind of instinct and context. It just cannot be explained by natural means. I've watched mothers beg heaven in utter agony for their children, when a lot of folk didn't understand, why are you doing all this? And there she was, because there's something, some attachment, some kind of supernatural reality that God has put in the heart of a mother. I've watched mothers celebrate their children on the sports field like they have lost their cotton-picking mind, and almost, because some of y'all in here did it. Say amen, say amen. That's why you laughing kind of soft, to the child's shame. And yet unapologetically and foolishly, I might add, she celebrated that child, because there's just something about her. I've watched mothers, and this is true and no hatred at all. I've watched mothers stand with their children in court, knowing full well they were more guilty than the devil themselves. Evidence was not fabricated. Witnesses were not lying. The verdict was just, because the child committed the crime. And yet what would not be overruled was her love for that child. When everybody turned their back, mama stood right there. There's just something, you can't explain it. You can't put your hand on it. Human language is not broad enough to explain the kind of love that God deposited in the heart of a mother. And so that's what I want to do today. We need to celebrate her. We need to appreciate her. We need to be thankful for her and that God gave her to us. All of us owe her something. You owe her at least 9 months of free room and board. And she's never asked for compensation. And if all the other stuff she didn't get right, she got that one right. If you have your mother, celebrate her today. Celebrate her. She's not perfect. And let's stop expecting perfection out of our parents, y'all. I mean, there's a basic, bare minimum we should expect, but if you've never parented a child, trust me, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. Am I right about it, parents? But if you have her, celebrate her. Be thankful. Thank God for her. Let her know that you love her. Don't be afraid to do that, and promise to celebrate her even more. If you have her but you were not able to see her today, maybe because of travel, make sure you communicate that to her. Even if she's in another country or she's in another state and you couldn't be there, communicate that to her and promise her that you'll see her very soon. You can add years to her life just by your presence. If you don't have your mother, my condolences to you, but celebrate her memory. Celebrate all that she represented. Celebrate the impact that she had on your life. Celebrate her values. Celebrate her faith and celebrate her God. And even if you don't have the best relationship with your mother, celebrate her anyway. As I said, she at least is owed 9 months of free room and board. Celebrate that if you can. That's kind of what I just want to lift up today. Let's really celebrate them. Let's really let them know how much we appreciate them. Let's let them know in their heart of hearts, you know what, you mean the world to me. I wouldn't have made it without you. That's what I see in this story this morning in this text. This story, it does upset our sense of justice, our sense of fairness, our Americanized righteous indignation, because Jesus, in a sense, kind of puts her off, kind of insults her. This woman comes to Jesus with a daughter that is demon-possessed, and clearly she's a mother in need, and Jesus kind of puts her off, and we don't like that, and I hope to address that today. But I want you to don't allow the perceived injustice in the text to cause you to miss the magnitude of this mother's love. The first thing I want you to see is that this was a mother that rejected labels. She would not allow society to label her child. It's in the text. Text says she had a daughter with an unclean spirit. You got to understand, in that culture, unclean was ritual and a medical term that you do not belong. It's hard for us to believe, but people that were sick in that day, people that were crippled, people that did not fit the cultural norm, were marginalized and excluded from the broader community. So also was this woman. So also was her daughter. She was Gentile. She was Syrophoenician. She was half-breed. Can I say it like I want to? She wasn't as light as all the other folk. She wasn't dark enough for her folk, and they marginalized her because she didn't fit the norms of racial skin color. That's what it meant to be unclean. And so here was a mother saying, I don't care what y'all think about my daughter. I'm bringing her to Jesus anyhow. And she said, you can talk about me, you can dog me, but you are not going to label my child. And I know I got some mothers that was just like that. They tried to say you were unruly. They tried to say you were a troublemaker. They tried to say you had a learning disability. They tried to say something was wrong with your thinking. But your mama went to that school, went to that church. You are not going to label my child. That's the kind of love. That's why I like this mother right here. She's like, look, you can talk about me, but you're not going to dog my child. It's my child. And even if it is true, my God is able to take the great disadvantage and turn it into an advantage. You are not going to label my child. And we need mothers like that. Need mothers. That's why God gave mothers. Because he knew we live in an ugly world, and folk will turn on you and hate on you for no reason, due to no fault of yours. And God gave us mothers like that will stand up and say, no, we're not going to have that. And let me say this very quickly to all of us. You know, it's easy to be against something until it visits your house. You know, it's not really an issue as long as it's in somebody else's house. But then the moment it comes to your house, we're ready to march for it. We're ready to be for it. And we want everybody to pray for it. And that's why we can't forget that our God is a God of compassion. Don't forget what God has done for you when you stand for something you believe in. Here was a mother who said, I'm going to stand for my child. And really the passage is a word. It's a word about our faith and what it means to be a Christian. And though the revelation of our faith comes through the scriptures, but also God stepped back when he made man and woman and said, how in the world can I reveal my goodness for all time? Because I know there are people who will reject Jesus Christ. There are people who will have issues with the church. But what can I leave in creation? What can I leave with people for all time to know that I'm a good and compassionate and loving God? What can I leave as an example for all time to let the world know that I'm gracious, I'm forgiving, and I'm loving? God made a mother when he thought about that. And the mother stood as an example of God's love for the world. Yes, we needed fathers because God made fathers for the purpose of making sure that we are affirmed in who we are. Fathers represents God's affirmation love for us and give us a sense of purpose and give us a sense of identity. Fathers represent the protection we need. And so when we have fathers, we feel good about ourselves and we feel safe that nobody's ever going to hurt us. Fathers provide for us that we won't be hungry. Yes, we need fathers in the fatherly sense, but don't miss it. God gave us mothers to remind us this is what compassion is. When everybody is through with them, mama say, come on, you can stay here. Come on, somebody. When everybody don't want you to be at the reunion, mama say, you belong at this reunion. I'm going to stand up for you. I don't care what they say about it. You are not an accident. And there's a part of the church that this text is reminding us, don't you get so self-righteous and forget it was nothing but the grace of God that brought you into the fold. And we can't ever forget that the mother is a reminder that everybody needs grace and everybody needs compassion. I just celebrate this mother. I celebrate her because she wouldn't accept the label on her child. She said, no, not my child. I'm not having that. Not my child. I thank God for my mother because when I was in the second grade, they told her he can't read. And she said, oh, no, not my child. And she took that summer, and by the end of that summer, I was reading on a fourth grade level going into the third grade. I thank God for the mother that said, no, not my child. That's what this mother is. Number one, she rejected labels. Number two, she remained focused. She remained focused. Because even though Jesus had a kind of a harsh word for her, this was a mother that was used to staying focused on what was important. She didn't allow her emotional sensibilities to get in the way. She didn't take the statement personal because she said, look, I came to this house to get a healing, and I'm not going to let your remark cause me to miss what I know God has for me. It's a word about a mother who says, I'm going to make the sacrifice that I need to make if that's what it takes to get this child well. And so the comment may offend us, and we don't like that about Jesus. Let me just throw a little footnote here. He challenges us, let the children be fed first. It's a metaphor for Israel. Paul talks about it in Romans chapter 1, that the gospel was to the Jew first and then the Gentiles. And the Jew took that to mean superiority. And so Jesus here, he's using it in a sense, in that cultural sense of elitism to challenge her. And there's a part of Jesus, we don't like this and we don't want to admit it, but there's a part of Jesus where Jesus can be a little scandalous. There's a part of Jesus where he'll challenge us. Oh, he'll forgive us, he'll love us, he'll heal us, he'll bring us through. We just sung the song, he's pulling us through. But every now and then, Jesus will get in our stuff. Anybody know Jesus will? Am I the only one that know that Jesus said, Archie, no, you're wrong on that one, brother. You need to step back. You need to stop whining. You need to stop being the victim here. No, you need to stop being a little punk, and you need to straighten up. Anybody, does Jesus ever talk to us? I'm just trying to... And we got to be careful because there's this Americanized Jesus, but the real Jesus, listen, he'll heal you, but at the same time, he'll push you. He'll love on you, but at the same time, he'll challenge you. He'll be a friend in midnight, but at the same time, he'll pull you through and encourage you that you can do what you think you can't do. And so there's a part of him, sometimes he's a little scandalous, and he will challenge us. But here's what I love about the mother. The mother stayed focused. She was willing to sacrifice her emotional sensibilities for the benefit of what was most important, which was the child. This was a mother that knew something about making sacrifices. And that's why I celebrate you today, because nobody knows the sacrifices you've made. Nobody knows the criticisms you caught when you first got pregnant. See, they forgot about that. And in spite of that, you were ready to throw in the towel, and some did, but you didn't because you knew God was going to bring you through. Nobody knows how difficult it was when you didn't know if you were going to be able to pay that rent next month. But yet you came in the living room with your kids with a smile on your face. You made sure they had joy, even though you had been crying through the night. Folk don't see the sacrifices that you had to make. And so today I celebrate you for your sacrifices that nobody understands. I celebrate you because you made sacrifices for us that we didn't see. I'm reminded of my mother's pastor. He pastors in Thomasville where my mother attends church. And he always talks about, his mother died in childbirth or when he was born. But as she was dying, her last words that she said, you just make sure he lives. And that word is a statement, I think, for most mothers. Mothers will do anything to help that child live. I know there's a few that kind of fell off the wagon, but even those, they're a little bit hurt. That's all. They've been through some stuff sometimes we don't always understand. But it's one thing I know about mothers. Mothers will go to the end for their children. God put that in them. Because God wants us to know just the way your mother loves you, I love you the same way. That's why at the cross, there were women at the cross. Because God wanted us to know that there's always compassion when we come to the cross. That's why when he rose from the dead and they came to the tomb, there were women at the tomb. Why? Because God wanted to know that in death or resurrection, there's always forgiveness. There's always compassion. There's always hope. I don't care how bad it is. I don't care what the critics say. You can always come through it because God's got a mother love in him that says to you that you can overcome it. And so number one, here's a mother that rejected labels. Number two, she was focused. But here's my last one. Number three, here was a mother that knew something about the power of God. I love that about her. She knew something about God's power. Look at her answer. She says, yes, Lord, yet even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs. And the Bible says Jesus was so impressed. You know what? By your statement, your daughter's made well. When she got home, the demon was gone. Her daughter was 100% well because she knew something about the power of God. Oh, I love this text. I love it because, see, chapter 7, verses 24 through 30, it represents the turning point of the entire gospel. Because there's a sense that the people who were supposed to be spiritual, the people who were supposed to be religious, had rejected Jesus, and the people like this woman who were on the outskirts had accepted him. And you got to understand that this incident is sandwiched between two feedings, the feeding of the 5,000 and the feeding of the 4,000. Mark's gospel is the only one that has both miracles. Jesus feeds 5,000, and then he encounters this woman with a crumb of bread, and then he feeds 4,000. In the feeding of the 5,000 and the 4,000, he feeds a multitude of people. And in both of those miracles, he's saying, I am the bread of life. Matter of fact, there's one incident in which after he feeds the multitudes, the disciples are getting ready to go across the Sea of Galilee, and they ask the question, do we have the bread? And Jesus said, look, as long as you got the one loaf, you don't have to worry about the bread. They missed it. But here comes a woman. She said, I don't need a loaf. I don't need a slice of bread. I don't need the full banquet. Just give me a crumb, because a crumb from the Lord will heal my daughter. Just a touch of his hem of his garment will make me well. Is there anybody that knows that just a crumb of God's love will make you well? I got some mothers here that have lived on God's crumbs. But didn't he keep you? Didn't he bless you? Didn't he make you whole? All it was a crumb of finances, a crumb of support. But God brought you through it. Won't he do it for you? Won't he bless you? Won't he make a way? Hey! He loves mothers. He loves you. And I want to encourage you today. God celebrates you today because when you had every reason to throw in the towel, you stayed there in it. If anybody should have committed suicide a long time ago, it's our mothers, but they stayed in there anyway, in spite of the difficulty, because God put something in your motherhood that won't say no. And so I celebrate you, mothers, and I take my hat off to you. And I pray that this day would be a symbol for many more days of how valuable you are, how you're the apple of God's eye, how as children we don't always understand you, and sometimes we don't appreciate you enough, but God knows, and you're worthy of all the accolades that come your way today. So may this day be your day. Father, we bless you and thank you for mothers today. I thank you for those that are here that have endured such difficulty. They've had to make it on crumbs. And time again, you kept showing up. Even when their love was crumbs, Lord, you took that crumb and made it a loving banquet meal. And I thank you for that. I thank you for my own mother right now, Lord. And I want to do everything in my strength to appreciate her. And I pray for everybody here today, wherever they are with mom, that, Lord, you would move us all to appreciate her, to love her, and celebrate her. We honor you this day. In Jesus' name, amen. Come on and stand to your feet.